Let's talk. When I joined the SCA back in fall of 1997, I joined the then Shire of Moonshadow, which mundanely is Stillwater, Oklahoma. And if you know anything about Oklahoma, Stillwater is college. It's a college town. It's the home of Oklahoma State University. And when you join a college town in the SCA, you very quickly learn how important demos are. And being in a college town with a lot of our members, I'd say, when I joined, I'd say maybe half of our members were college students. That meant in the next 4 years, probably a huge swath of these people were going to be gone. They were going to graduate, move away. They were going to drop out, move away. They were going to transfer schools and move away. There just is not a sustainable long-term metric where a majority of your members, when they're college students, are going to stay. It's the nature of the beast. So every year, we had demos, multiple demos. We did Lights Over Stillwater. We always had our big campus demo where we'd pull out all the pavilions and we'd go out on the front library lawn, set everything up. We'd have fighting. Everyone would be in costume, displaying arts and sciences, shaking hands, handing out business cards. And this is the library lawn at OSU. If you've never been there, that's a central hub of transit for most of campus. Like an overwhelming majority of students who are going between classes are going to pass by that chunk of real estate over the course of the day several times. So I think someone told me at one point that between 18,000 people were going to be transiting by us over the course of our 4 or 6 hours there. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot, managing a crowd, talking to a lot of people, taking names, handing out cards. It was a huge logistical investment. A lot of our members came from those type of demos. I remember at the time Lord Owen, now Count Owen, he was holding fighter practices during the weekday, during the daytime on that same plot of land actually. And that's how I found the SCA. I saw these 4 or 5 guys swinging swords at each other. And imagine that, I was interested. So I grew up in a demo heavy culture and nothing wrong with that. It was a very, very central part of my early SCA career was understanding that demos were how you recruited. And the majority of the people in Moonshadow at the time, they either heard about the SCA from a demo or heard about it from a friend who had seen a demo or heard about a demo. I mean, that was the prevailing method of recruitment, frankly. And some of those things still exist today. I mean, the bigger ones. We have the Norman Medieval Fair, which is the Oklahoma SCA area. It's probably one of their best, the largest recruiting efforts. We'll get 25 people out there for 3 days. And this year was insane. We actually had the plot of land that was between the rest of the fair and the parking lot. I think they said it was 16,000 people walked by us. I mean, you couldn't ask for better real estate than that. It was insane. I normally, those deep, really in-depth conversations where this person is specifically interested in what the SCA is and they want to know more. And I'm used to having, even something as big as MedFair, I'm used to having maybe 3 or 4 of those conversations myself personally with different people. I think I had 30 or 40 over the 2 days I was there. It was insane. But we need to talk about demos. And I'm not saying that demos need to go away, not by any stretch. But we need to talk about where demos come from and what they mean for us now. Because this is my opinion, and my opinion shaped as someone that lives in one area of one kingdom. And yes, I talk to people from a lot of different kingdoms, but that doesn't mean I have firsthand exposure in all those kingdoms. But I have opinions, and more importantly, I have some important questions for you. So, to start off, demos date back before social media. And for half of my viewers, they're probably going, duh. And the other half of you, probably wondering, how does social media change things? And you have to understand here that social media was a game changer in communications in general. Um, the ability to pull out your phone and snap a picture and send it to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mother, your best friend, 5 states away instantly, and then get a reaction from them a moment later while you're talking with or looking at whatever the subject of your photograph is, that's a very new technology. And that type of outreach, that changes the social fabric of how we communicate as a society. SCA demos predate that. Um, there were a lot of ways of getting the word out, but for the SCA, the majority of it was direct exposure through demos or word of mouth. That was how people found out who we were. The only alternatives is when we had, occasionally there were really awesome news articles. I remember there was a CBS This Morning, like a mainstream CBS Sunday Morning mainstream news show, did a whole segment on us. It was awesome. But other than that, we created our own PR, and outside PR a lot of the time wasn't always the most flattering. There are times where groups like ours, we wind up, back then, if we wound up in the news, it was for the not so good reasons. Um, Demos date back really to before the internet took hold. Again, instant communication outside of phones, which landline phones, I can tell you, weren't that instant. You had to get to one, you had to hope whoever you were calling was at their end. Instant communication's a game changer, and the internet or demos date before that. And that's, the idea of, again, word of mouth, leaving a lasting good impression, leaving, names, not just emails, not just websites, but names to reach out to. That's part of the culture of the demo. Is it dates back to before that instant communication. And demos, and this is kind of still applicable today, but I remember when I joined, running a demo, coordinating, organizing a demo, really was seen as kind of an entry-level leadership position, to kind of give other people an idea of how you organized, how you managed a group of people. And those were the type of metrics that factored into, if you wanted to put on an event later on, some of the questions that were asked would be, well, how did they run the demo that they ran, last year, the year before that? So a demo was a major outreach opportunity, but it was also seen as kind of a mini or micro event. It was seen as a opportunity for new or interested leaders or potential leaders to kind of give a glimpse of what they were made of. Those are the origins, or those are some of the factors from demos from when I first encountered them. And I know that we were talking about the new ways of doing demos and the stuff that we were doing different that the people just a few years before hadn't. I mean, how was it run in 96 and 94? I have no idea. I wasn't there. But I can speak to 97 and on because I was there. It's very, very easy to sit here and say everything changed with COVID. Now, let's be fair, everything did change with COVID. But that's not the whole story. The SCA started taking some serious number hits in about 2014. And we even talked about it as, I remember someone called it the massive wow defection, because We were losing active members. We joked that they had a raging World of Warcraft addiction. And I remember watching active members who would not go to meetings, would not attend events. They'd stay home and play World of Warcraft. Some of whom legitimately had life priority issues, and it was an addiction. But a lot of them, online gaming, whether it was World of Warcraft or something else, was meeting the need that they had. The SCA, getting dressed up and driving out to a meeting wasn't required. And this was in 2015. And this wasn't a small segment. I remember there was a census taken, and the king at the time of Ansteora, it was Jean Paul, JP and Jillian, as a matter of fact. They actually showed some charts and quoted some numbers. And the SCA had taken a savage numbers hit. Like the line on the chart had dropped drastically in just a few years. And the statement was, if it kept going that way, the SCA would cease to exist within, I think 3 or 4 years. Now, it obviously did level out, but we were still doing demos. We were still doing outreach. All of a sudden, we had competition. The SCA for the longest time was effectively one of the, not the only, but it was one of the only acts on the block that appealed to the sword and sandal or medieval Renaissance geekery that kind of hit below the surface in society. And now, all of a sudden, with social media and then online gaming, and not long after that, the creation of other organizations that catered to sword fighting or pomp and circumstance or pageantry or costuming or history or so forth, we had competition. We were not the only game in town, and our numbers reflected it. I remember watching that presentation by JP, and it was in 2015. I remember it specifically for a couple of reasons. I remember thinking, am I looking at the twilight of the society? Because at the time, that was not an unreasonable possible reading of the numbers. We were doing all the same things. We were still doing demos locally and regionally and at a kingdom level. We were still handing out business cards. We were still shaking hands. The return on investment was dwindling. I remember one pop meeting we were at in, I want to say 2003, where I showed up early to help set up chairs, and I was talking with someone, and I said, I lay you odds we don't get more than 10 people, which at the time would have been a moderate turnout for the demo we just done. It was non-campus demo. And as I said that, the doors on the other end of the building opened up, and 18 people walked in. And I remember looking at the other guy going, okay, I'll go get more chairs. But 18 people just walking, and they didn't know each other. They weren't all friends. These were all people who just happened to come from campus together, but they all saw the demo and they wanted to go to the populace meeting the next Tuesday night. I really think that was the last time we had a mass, like I said, 2003. I think that was the last time I remember, anyway, having a large block of people just show up after a demo at a populace meeting. Having a chunk, having 10, having 12 just show up, that used to be the norm. And then it just kind of dwindled. I remember the next year it was 8 or 9, and the year after that it was 5 or 6. And then by the time you get to the 2012 period, for us at least, we were doing the same demos. We were shaking the same hands. We were handing out business cards. We were doing everything we could. And we were getting 1 or 2 people. Return on investment was tanking. And that's not saying that we need to stop doing demos. Don't read too far ahead on this, but understand that the effectiveness of the model changed. And the game changed. Like I said, we were not the only game in town. People who wanted to get their sword fighting itch, who wanted to get their community, wanted to find a community of people who like this. The people who wanted to, the geeks who were looking for fellow geeks and their specific geekdom, the SCA suddenly had a whole bunch of competition. And we were feeling it. We really were. And that really does take us to the doorstep of COVID. By 2020, I remember, at least in Oklahoma, the SCA was one of the last major nonprofit organizations I was aware of to get a society level email account, or a kingdom, in our case, kingdom level email account. Because now all of our officers have officer accounts at onstira.org, or whatever, at vintime.org now, and so forth. But we were doing personal emails in the newsletters for a while. Moonshadow, we were still doing email chains and email trees and phone trees. I want to say into 2003 or 4. And then we had Yahoo groups. We did Yahoo groups for a number of years. And then we had, it really was social media at the social level. Like, I'd say a majority of people in Moonshadow when I was up there had social media accounts leading up to COVID, but society, business, especially at the local level, was not done on social media. Occasionally there'd be some Facebook chit chat or so forth, but it just, the culture was we do it in person. Well, March of 2020 hit, and the SCA was pretty much told, you can hop on social media, i.e. Facebook, or you can go on indefinite hiatus because we have no idea how long this is going to last. So we almost literally got drugged kicking and screaming into the digital virtual space. Now that's its own conversation, but the reason I'm saying that is that up until literally the doorstep of 2020, the SCA as a culture was still practicing face-to-face demos and in-person activities, and we were very stringently resisting the virtual space. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's another conversation, and it's a lot to talk about there. I'm just stating that as, at least from my perspective, a matter of fact. So, 2020, we didn't have a choice. We jumped into the virtual sphere. We started doing online activities. We did online classes. We did online meetings, which quickly progressed into online courts and awards. Online, there were online ceremonies for peeragings, which for a lot of members today are like, well, of course they did that. That's part of history. Well, a lot of us remember back when those type of things would have been considered offensive to talk about. That COVID was a major turning point, but understand that the recruiting and retention culture and the world that we were recruiting in was already changing drastically, and it can be argued against us 4, 5, and 6 years before COVID hit. So all that is kind of a build-up, a preface to get to what we need to talk about. I just got back from a demo 2 days ago. I was out at this little Renaissance fair all day Saturday and all day Sunday. We probably handed out 200, 300 business cards. I shook hands with probably 50, 60 people. I was woodworking the whole time, like literally the whole time. Fair opened at 10, and I was already working on boards and pins and measurements, and I had my plane out, and then we wrapped up at 6, and I packed up and loaded up the car with my tools. I came back the next day, again, doors open at 10. I was woodworking, and I think we screwed in the final hinge on that box I made, from scratch, mind you, around 5:30. So I was out there working my tail off for that I had a number of people helping me. And we were all out there giving it 110%. But you know something? I really think we've had maybe 5 people voice any interest from the fair. And we've had a populace meeting the next night, and we have Discord on right now. I mean, there's a Discord server that's always active. We haven't had, I don't think we've had 10 new people join Facebook or Discord. Now, that's not to diminish the people who have joined. Don't get me wrong. I'm thrilled that we have them, and they're welcome, and I'm glad that they've joined the society. But that demo was a lot of work. It was setting up 2 pavilions. It was setting up tables and chairs. It was bringing all of our stuff out, then packing up all the critical stuff on Saturday night, then unpacking it again Sunday morning, then packing everything up and breaking all the pavilions down Sunday night in the dark, in the cold. That's a massive investment of logistics. And we've got a handful of people out of it. We've got a very, very small handful of people, and their activity level is yet to be decided. I mean, we're still trying to sort out, did we get 1 new fighter? Did we get 1 new, have we gotten 1 or 2 new fighters? Do we have maybe 1 artisan? How many paid members are we going to get out of this? How many people are going to become paying members within the society? Now, I'm not trying to say they all have to become paid members. I'm not trying to push that. But your paid membership is a metric of health for the bod itself. So we can't just recruit 30 people and have none of them take paid memberships. I mean, we can, but that then delves into the question of, how do we measure group health then? And all of this in contrast to the barony that I currently live in, which, to be fair, I moved into this barony more or less in the middle of the first year of COVID. So that kind of gives you some time frame. We have multiple people who heard about us from our web presence and joined and began interacting with us online from a passive standpoint. We weren't recruiting. There wasn't a big online event. It was they heard about us and they hopped on the Discord, or they heard about us and they joined Facebook. I know at least 1 or 2 of these people, they were active members for months before we ever got their email. Email is becoming antiquated. It's a thing of the past for our group in many, many respects. But when the question of membership comes up in a local meeting or at a local officers meeting, there are those, and there are several people that do this, several of the longer standing members that go, okay, well, we need to plan another demo. We need to do a demo. We need to go out. Here's the thesis statement for you. Here is what I want you as a viewer, as a player in the society to take away from this. At no point in time am I saying we need to stop doing demos. No. Demos are vital for interacting with the community, with getting our names out there, with getting our faces recognized, with developing a relationship with local institutions so that we can have a place at the table for community activities. So we are welcome to fairs, festivals, social events. We, on top of everything else, we are a part of the community, and we should work hard to maintain good standing with that local community. But we really, really, as a society, both at the society level and the local level, I will submit to you, we need to stop. The next time someone says we need to do a demo, stop And we need to ask ourselves, why do we need to do a demo? What is it about demos that are so important? Oh, we need it for recruitment. Okay, that's fair, but are demos recruiting people? Is getting the 5, the 10, the 15 people out there for one day, for 2 days, putting all that effort in, working ourselves weary, working ourselves tired. A lot of us aren't as young as we used to be. Sometimes we actually injure ourselves, all the hard work. Is that worth the investment of time, money, health, effort for how many people are we really going to get? How many people have we recruited? How many people has your group recruited at its last demo? How many people came in at the last big to-do that you did for the public? How many was it? 2? 5? Ask yourself, is the effort you put into that demo worth those numbers? Now, if it was, if you feel like that's worth doing it, okay, great. But what about the other venues? What about frankly, the other spheres of reality that now exist that we can recruit through? There are active members in my barony right now, a couple of whom are officers right now, who heard about the SCA from our web presence, from Discord, from Facebook. They joined through those with no prompting by us. They saw the web presence. They saw the web page at the listing. Is there a way your group, or my group, frankly, can become active in that, become proactive? Is there a way we can put energy into that? Or perhaps it'll give us a better return on investment. Or perhaps it'll get our name out to the right people without, burning us out, which the demo is a mini event for us, usually. What about classes? What about public classes? I just finished teaching a basic woodworking class, basic hand tool only medieval woodworking class at the local library. I only had a few people show up. It was a lot of fun, but it was much more low key than a full scale demo. And I got to hand out the information. I got to pass out cards. I've got another class coming up where I'm going to be teaching metal casting as a medallion making mechanism. And that's going to be a mundane class. That's on the local library's public class schedule. There's no charge. It's my chance to teach an art and skill that I love, and it's a chance to get that in the public. Is that something we should do more of? I don't know. I need to try these. I need to find out. But if we're being honest with ourselves, a lot of groups need to stop saying we need more demos, and they need to take a good, long, hard look at what their resources are and where they can best apply them to engage recruitment and retention in a modern context. Because the demos of 1997 don't answer the challenges of 2022. Now, like I said, does that mean demos need to go away? No. I think we should maintain demos, but I think we should do them for the right reasons, with the right resources, the right motivations, and the right outlook. Can we live cast them? Can we do recordings at them? There's plenty of ways to update the model. But what we absolutely should not do is say, this is the way we've done it for years, and do it again. Is that really going to work? Is that really worth the effort? If it is, if I'm wrong about your specific circumstance, excellent. I'm honestly happy for you. Go out, demo, recruit, and grow your group and be happy. But I think a lot of you know I'm not wrong. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. It always has been. But the return on investment, 2020 isn't 1997, guys. We need to rethink this. We need to reinvent. We need to re-engage recruitment. We need to come up with a new idea of how to do this. I know it's not an uplifting, happy thought. It's not one of my typical videos, but there are times where these conversations aren't about what I know. It's about what does that reflection in the mirror say to you. So, until next time, goodbye, God bless. Maybe I'll see you at your next demo.